Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the Total Evercade podcast. I'm your host tonight because Ollie said another trouser accident. It's me, Blunners. And to the left side of me, I've got Mr. Tim, Triangle Face.
Good evening. We are coming to you live from the surface of the sun because it's ridiculously hot everywhere. So I hope everyone is keeping cool and staying hydrated.
Yeah, also, Derek couldn't be with us because he had a double trouser accident as well. So I've managed to get Matt Upton off the subs bench. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, it's very hot subs bench, but we're all doing good.
And we do have a special guest with us. So I'm just waiting for him to be ready before I add him, because it was literally last seconds just joining us before we did go live. But before we do that, I've done my membership. I can't even remember who it went to because it was so long ago, but hopefully you enjoy that membership and you have leveled up. So okay, I'll bring it in now. Thank you
for gifting some memberships as well, Morley. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Seán Cleaver. How are you?
I am not too bad, everyone. How is everyone? You all good?
Very good. Thank you for joining us. I know you've had to run around and get some stuff sorted, but thank you so much.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you for accommodating my my slight tardiness with everything.
It's fine. We're literally ready to go. Like we always start off, is what are you playing? So I'll start with you, Tim. What have you been playing?
I keep coming back to them, but I do love the indie stuff. So I have been playing, my indie heroes and Mega Cat Studio 1. I still think Old Towers is one of my favourite games. Keep coming back to that. There's just something about it. I should really get on with some of the carts that I've bought that I haven't tried yet. So I do want to play some more of the Duke Nukem games because I never played Duke Nukem before Evercade because I just bypassed it with playing other games. And then when Evercade brought out the Duke Nukem collection, I picked up both carts. I've been playing through them, but I still haven't played the third person one. Is it Time to Kill?
Yeah.
I've not played that one before, so I should probably go and start playing that, but I just keep on getting called back to the indie carts, Indie Heroes 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, that's what I've been playing.
They are fantastic carts. That's basically they're the games that got me in to the Evercade originally, from playing around Ryan's house. But yeah, Matt, what have you been playing this week?
Well, listening to Derek each week, each time he keeps going on about playing the Amiga games and the Commodore 64 games on the Alpha with a joystick. So I thought I'd get into Team 17 and have a little play on Alien Breed, which is really good. Enjoying it. You have to be careful about those keys and keep coming back to the map and that sort of thing to plan your route a little bit. But I'm not quite sure though whether aliens just keep generating or whether you can just kill them all off. I keep feeling like I keep going and killing loads of them, and then I walk away and then come back and then there's loads more. So I don't know if they just endless generation. But and I had a go on IREM kart as well. Played Moon Patrol and completed that, and that was really good. Not my best. I think I still think In the Hunt's my favourite game on IREM. But I think IREM's a little bit underrated, or doesn't seem like it's talked about very much, the IREM kart.
It isn't really. It needs to be talked about more, I think.
Yeah, Lightning Swords as well. It's a good one on there.
Yeah, Lightning Swords. Yeah, I've been playing the Alpha. Love a bit of Murtop on there. Also, went back to my EXP and was playing Rogue 64 because I'm dying to play Roguecraft. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Fantastic. That guys, you don't realise you get that game for free. Do you know what I mean? You've just got to put a code in that secret game list and you get to play that. But yeah, I've also been playing Gremlin Collection 2, but we'll speak about that later in a little bit. But yeah, Sean, what have you been playing?
Oh, what have I been playing on Evercade? Believe it or not, I've not been playing the stuff that we haven't announced yet. Normally, I'd be already playing it and going mad for a bit, but I haven't yet. Mostly the alphas. In fact, the main thing I have been playing is Puzzle Bubble on the Taito Alpha.
Yeah,
when we've had a few different industry things and the filming for the trailers and stuff like that. That's just my jam. That's always my jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly that really. A lot of the stuff kind of dipped in and out. Also, I've dipped in and out of the Neo Geo stuff. Certainly with Neo Geo 1 and the stuff that's coming on the pockets, which, you know, just to prove they're not overly delayed and they do exist. They're there.
Oh, mate.
They are coming.
Yeah.
You're going to see reviews of them hitting this week as well. So hopefully everybody's going to be quite happy. And yeah, I actually played quite a lot of Roadcraft as well. We did obviously a lot of the filming for the trailer and the second part, and Pete, who does a lot of our social, also does a lot of our video. But we basically had a half-day session in the office where both of us were just taking it in turns to have a go. So there's a mixture of all of us in there.
Nice. Yeah, so we had the guys on 2 weeks ago, help promote the game. I said definite
really good
for
pod.
me, like I said, it's
enjoyed it.
definite day one. I think it's such a great game. I ended up downloading the Amiga version and trying to play it, and it took me so long trying to work it out, how to just get the game I've just bought, trying to get it to work. It's doing my head in. But yeah, once I got it going, it is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You're going to have a lot more in our version as well compared to what was already released. So, you know, it's going to be quite a fun time for you if you're already familiar with the game, seeing all the bits that are new.
Yeah, that's what we got. Yeah, so we were getting them to just explain what it was like working with you guys, and they're really great.
That's
really
good.
Great.
Normally working with us is terrible, right?
Well, if you read certain things, yeah. Do you know what I mean? But no, we've so yeah, well, yeah, before we started, I want to just say congratulations on Showcase 4. I think it was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, mate, that must be so much work that goes into that. And trying to keep a lid on everything. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things that are obviously out of control when you're doing those kind of things. You just kind of have to let them happen.
Frustrating.
But, you know, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of rewarding work. You know, it's partly doing it yourself. I mean, we obviously use a couple of different agencies and a couple of different videographers to make sure we get everything, so it's managing all of those things together. It makes you wonder how companies like Nintendo that are doing big things with loads of people, you know, do it, because it is really, really hard sometimes just to make sure that you've got everything ready, that you're going over the same 20 minutes of video over and over again. You know, it's hard, but it's great because, you know, the feedback from this one, especially compared to like some of the other ones we've had, is that everybody really felt good about the showcase. Like they felt like it was I mean, obviously, you know, we tried to do it about our 5th anniversary, so it was a bit of a celebratory kind of thing about it anyway. But people felt the showcases themselves were a nice celebration of Evercade. You know, it's not too salesy in your face and all that kind of stuff. It's more about, hey, this is what you guys love and this is what we love, and we're bringing it all together. And that was a really nice bit of feedback to start getting this time around. So
yeah, it was as I said, it's also the collections themselves speak for themselves as well, if you know what I mean. It's like the game choices that are on these ones. Like I've done some videos going through what's coming, and the Neo Geo ones for me are just must-haves. They're just fantastic. I can't wait to just be able to just play them across all the different platforms we have. But I feel that's what's really, that was like, and the Roadcraft was just a curveball I just did not see coming. As in, it was something I didn't really know much about. Obviously, played the free game we got, but this one is fantastic, and I can't wait for people to start playing it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. I mean, the guys did as good a job as anybody can in telling everybody about it on the last podcast. You know, they're really, really passionate. They've been great to work with. You know, I worked with them directly in doing a lot of the video that we put out in that showcase as well. So, you know, it was all really, really good to, you know, just get these guys, you know, onto Evercade with something more than what they'd already done, and giving them a cart on their own. You know, we don't do that often. We've only done it the once, and that was yeah, it just seemed like the right game at the right time to have its own release, and hopefully everybody's going to really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, I was just hoping it was going to be one of them huge Amiga boxes that you'd get. You just, like, you know, when you order from Amazon, you get one of them huge boxes, and there's like a tiny little like cart in there. That's like, let's get one of those massive big box games. But no, it's fantastic. So guys, get your. I know we've had quite a few questions already. haven't we, Tim? So get your questions in. Tim will style them for you, and we'll get them for a dear Sean, not dear
We'll
Derek.
see if we might not get through all of them because there is a lot, but yeah, feel free to keep adding to the pile, and we'll pick a few out. There's a few duplicates where people have asked some similar questions, so we'll do our best to cover and as much as we can and get your questions answered for you.
So we've only got a few topics tonight because we just want to do some relaxing, just talking about things. And I obviously want to mention about the new carts that have just released. They came out there, and I wanted to know. Hang on, I just want to quickly share the screen with Gremlin Collection because yes, Gremlin Collection too. A lot of people, especially the America over the pond, our friends on the Evercast didn't really know what it was about, but obviously since getting it, it is fantastic. The 4 games in there, was it Buggy, Hogs of War is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you've got Loaded and Reloaded. But I remember Hogs of War playing it on the PS1 back in the day. Loaded and Reloaded, I never really played. So, and then Buggy, I think over in America it's called, is it RC Racer?
Yeah.
It's got a different name.
Yeah, I think it was RC Racer, and then it had a number after it. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly. But Loaded and Reloaded, they were not just, PS1, they were Saturn as well.
I had it on Saturn. Yeah, it was good game.
They're quite they're still quite available on the Saturn as well. If you do pick them up, they're always quite fun. And then Hogs of War. I mean it's just. You can't see it from this camera angle, but there's every series of Bottom and the young ones and the Bottom Life Stay Show collection behind me. In fact, actually, I haven't put it up yet because I've been redecorating my room. But I have this lovely Jim will paint it picture that's framed of Richie and Eddie versus the Legion of Doom. So yeah, working with that is just great. And the Gremlin collection, the first Gremlin collection had some great games on it. And we only had, we managed to get 2 PlayStation 1 games on that with Actua Soccer and Hardcore 4x4. And Gremlin have got quite an interesting history. Obviously, everybody knows them in this country from a lot of their home computer stuff. We know them, depending on the generations, from everything else as well. And it's just trying to work out what to bring of what's available at the time and when we do. And I think the first cart, we actually had a really good mix. And it's a tricky one to sell if you weren't British, I guess, because, Zool is a very tricky platformer that's very much of our kind of ilk. Utopia as a strategy game is good, but you've got to be kind of into strategy games. And then, of course, everybody went, oh, no, not another soccer game. But, they're all good games. And then, we bring this one out. Everybody's thinking about the first collection and what their initial thoughts on that. And like you say, I've seen a lot of people that have said, actually, this cart is great. This cart is a lot of fun, and it's really, really good. And I'm just glad that everybody's sort of seeing that because, Gremlin's a very close name to my gaming heart. It's always good to see it do well in whichever iteration it's in.
I think one of the first games I got really into was Zool on the. I had it on an Acorn, and I go back and play it now. I forget how hard it is. It's you always kind of think about Sonic the Hedgehog being really fast, but you play Zool and he's so quick, and you're just like flying across the screen. But obviously, you got to go slow and collect all the items to actually be able to pass the level. But I always like revisiting that game. But every time I go and play it, I think, this is tough. It's quite a hard game.
Do you know what's really weird as well? I've been playing Sonic the Hedgehog lately, but I've been playing it on this thing, which is a CRT that I found. And it works. And I plugged the Mega Drive into it and I played Sonic. And oh my word, it's like we've had nearly 30 years since we played Sonic on a Mega Drive in front of a proper TV. And everybody else has modded their consoles or done whatever, or they've played them in different collections and stuff like that. The original PAL release now feels so slow. So slow, especially when you can imagine how fast Zool was when Sonic was as slow as it was for us.
Because actually a lot of Sonic isn't that fast, especially the first one. A lot of it is waiting for platforms and jumping around, but you always think about the loops and running, but actually the original Sonic, there's lots of actual slow platforming sections.
When
comparatively
you get to
Zool, that's the the fast game, really.
Yeah, when you get to speed, it kind of appears. But like, yeah, Zool is just, when you've got like, I mean, it's probably appropriate for this weather. When you've got a fly that's just like buzzing around your kitchen, and it just doesn't know where to go, and it's just bouncing off everything. That's what playing Zool is like. It's just manic, absolutely manic, and it's great.
That's the thing. I hadn't played Zool. I remember my brother having it years ago, and I hadn't played it until we came back and got the car. But then you recently had it as a highlight of the month as well.
Yeah.
And I've done a couple of videos on it, and I was playing it on the on the alpha, just with an arcade stick. And I was just at the time, I think someone in the comments said tell me, because I was just slamming it to the end, thinking I could just do a Sonic, just get to the end. And it was like, no, you haven't got enough coins. Like, and I was thinking, I know, I've got it, but I can't go any further. So to go back. But what was it? He's not an ant, or was it? I can't remember what it was, from the nth dimension.
Yeah, he's from another dimension.
Yeah, from the nth dimension, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, but it's like when you say about when you say about going back. I recently went back. Well, I say recently, it was a couple of years. I went back to play on the N64, and I was trying to play Conker's Bad Fur Day, because I just remember how funny it was, and it hurt my eyes. I literally could not like I was like I could not watch it. It was hurting. I was like, I can't do this. It's really annoying. It was like kind of stretched a bit on a bigger CRT. It just didn't look right, and I was just like, no, it's ruined.
It's weird on that thing. Again, I've got an N64 underneath it, and playing games on that is so much clearer than everything I've tried to do to try and make that work really, really well on anything, So it's just kind of like, sometimes the original is best, but we've come so far in emulation and everything that we've got that as soon as we can, it's really, really nice, and the original hardware's still there and quite accessible, and if you can emulate it, then you can emulate it, which is great,
Yeah, so I was saying, so Loaded and Reloaded, they got some funky, we say, background music going on, but the actual gameplay, is fantastic. Loaded, I just loved it, and before I knew it, I was only doing a couple of playtests to have a go, and I'd done a couple of hours, and I was thinking, I need to put this down. I've got stuff to get on with, but it's fantastic. I don't know, Matt, have you played Loaded, Matt? Oh, you said you had it on the Saturn.
Yeah, had it on the Saturn. Again, great soundtrack on it, and just blood and guts, but kind of mindless kind of fun, isn't it? You just almost, it's a bit manic, but almost a chill-out game as well. Kind of, because it's just blat everything that you can. And it's a great soundtrack.
It's amazing when you see games like Vampire Survivors, Brotato, and lots of modern games like that really in some ways are quite similar to this formula as well, aren't they? You're just going around, mania surrounds you, and your main thing is just trying to find the nicest way to survive. I mean, obviously with Loaded, there's a bit more to it in that, with storyline and level design and stuff. But, it's, a lot of those games very much you think owe a lot to, things like Loaded, things like Super Smash TV, and those kind of top-down kind of games. Yeah,
I was saying, I'll just move on to Hogs of War. I just it just reminds me of like a 3D Worms. But
I think a lot of people did call it that back in the day as well.
Yeah, and they can just take a bit more of a pasting. So it's like you hit them a couple of times, don't really do enough. But it is fantastic, and just the sayings just crack you up. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the very British humour, isn't it? That seems to have exported very well with Worms, and with Hogs of War, it's there as well. It's all of those games, and like Hogs of War, Worms Armageddon, the secret Amiga version of Worms, if you know how to find it on Evercade as well. They're all great games. They're all fun games, and that's why they survive now, and that's why there's a great new remake of Armageddon with DLC with the original games being released on it as well. You've got the Mega Drive, the SNES, and a couple of Game Boy Advance collections that are out on that collection now as well. So all of those games are a lot of fun, and Hogs of War just felt like the kind of, all right, we'll see your mainstream game, and we'll we'll give you some with it, and oh, by the way, here's Rick Mail.
Tim, have you played Hogs of War?
Yes, yeah, I played quite a lot of Hogs of War. Actually, I was never quite as good at Hogs of War as I am at Worms.
Yeah, because I was going to say Tim's like
Yeah.
the worst, like Worms player you could play against. Like we all just gang up
because
on him.
I abuse the ninja rope. I've been told, which I can't deny. I do abuse the ninja rope and drop something explosive right next to somebody and then swing away. But I can't get away with that on Hogs of War, so it was a bit more evenly matched. But yeah, great fun little game. It's one of those good ones as well. It's quite a simple game, and you can pick up and play one round and then move on to something else, or you can just get sucked in and just do round after round after round. And especially if you're playing with a group of friends and you're all, evenly matched and different people win, you just want to have another one. If you lose, you want to try again so you can beat your mate and just keep it going. So lots of fun can be had with that.
Cool. And and then Buggy. Do not sleep on Buggy. I actually really enjoyed it, and as it says on there, chaotic 32-bit. It is. There's a lot going on at once. Once you get the controls down, you can really fly around the tracks. But
well, that's
really
the thing that everybody in the comments has kind of already said. They've already said, "Oh, Lotus and Lotus and Lotus," because Gremlins, like their highlight for a long time was racing games. The Lotus series, Nigel Mansell series, and we've managed to publish 2 of their games. The Hardcore 4x4 or TNN 4x4, I think it was in America, and Buggy now as well. There's another 1 or 2 that I think they did as well. There's a game called N2O, which is sort of like a future racer as well, and things like that. They got a really good big pedigree of racing games and always have. It's great. I think they even did a lot of work on the first Top Racer, if I remember rightly, when it was called something else at the BBC now. Yeah, there's Gene Joke right there.
Yeah, and the Top Racer games. But yeah, I'm glad there's another British publisher out there, another collection, and here's to seeing a 3rd collection next year, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's still a lot more out there from some British devs still that we can still get. And I know everybody's going to be screaming, "Where's the home computer stuff and that as well?" But yeah, we've still got a few more things coming this year. Next year is already looking pretty stacked from what we've got as well. So, I think everybody been saying this a lot lately, but I think everybody's going to eat quite well.
Good. So, brings us on to the 2nd collection that has come out, and that is Windjammers, Karnov, and Friends. So
he has friends. Look, they're there on the cover. Don't doubt the friends.
So that is one thing I was going to say. Why the friend?
So I mean, most people have kind of worked this out, and I think a few people did in the reviews they put online as well. Data East was dissolved, made bankrupt, and sold and split for a lot of different places. The majority of the stuff went to a company in Japan that we licensed from and own the name, so all the Data East collections come from them. These 5 games were taken by another company, and there would have been far too much effort to try and get 2 different companies to license 2 different parts on that. So we tried to work out what can we call this cart if we can't use the original publisher name. And, we want to highlight what's on the cart because anything else is just going to confuse people. So we just went with the 2 most well-known biggest games, Windjammers, Karnov, and then called the rest of them his friends, which they are. And Karnov's in pretty much every Data East game, so he's got a lot of friends.
Yeah, it sounds to me a bit like, was it like the Marvel and Fox kind of issue you had half of like Fox owning Marvel, didn't they?
I mean, it's not too bad because all of these companies do speak to each other, and there probably could have been something that could have happened for the right amount of money. But when you're on deadlines of getting all of this stuff done, and really, would it have made sense to call this Data East Arcade Free? Maybe not. It kind of works even more because it's Windjammers and Karnov, and then you go, oh right, well, what are these games? It kind of always reverse psychology makes you go, oh, I'm intrigued to discover what these games are if you've never heard of them. And most people have heard of Windjammers. It's such a big name.
Yeah, Tim, have you played any of these games at all?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Windjammers. So there was a arcade machine where was it? There was a place I went to. I used to do like a youth theatre group when I was younger, and they had a bit where there was like a bar where I could go in because like there's a bar area that was not accessible to the people.
The saloon bar that we were never allowed in as kids.
But there were some arcade machines. Like in the bar, but there's like gambling machines and stuff. Then on the outside there was one arcade machine. I think we had one which was Metal Slug and another one which was Windjammers. I used to go on that and I really liked it. I'd only have like, my parents would give me £1 to take with me. And then on one of the breaks, I'd have one go. So I'd have like one go a week on that. However, now I've got that on my arcade cabinet thing that I plug in. And that's on a Pandora's box sort of setup. And that's got Windjammers on it. So now I can play it to my heart's content on an arcade cabinet, which is great. And then, soon to be on the Evercade as well. So it's... it's a really fun game, actually. At a glance, it's like obviously very similar to something like Pong, but it's surprising how competitive a game like that can get. It comes back to what I was saying about Hogs of War. If you're playing against a mate who's as good as you are, and it's alternating who's winning, you always want to do that just one more round, so you can kind of get back on top if you're a couple of games behind. It's like, no, one more game, I've got to beat you. So it's one of those.
It's weird. I used to do a lot of work before I got into marketing with a bar in London called Loading Bar. Shout out to Jimmy and to Andy. And we used to put on live streams. We used to put on tournaments in the bar and stuff like that. And one of the biggest things is we had a massive charity Rocket League tournament that I ended up commentating on because I went out in the first round. But the release of Windjammers when it came out again on, I think it was on Switch on the Arcade Archives or something like that, about a year before the second game came out that was recently come out. That came out a little bit too late. Otherwise, we would have done exactly that. There would have been Windjammers tournaments to the hilt out of this thing because it just would have been so much fun just getting all of the games fans and games industry and everything into this bar and just getting them all to play Windjammers. And you're right, it is so good playing against somebody else with this as well. Especially if you've got like an alpha and somebody's playing on that, and then you've got like a secondary arcade stick you can plug in. It's so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah. Matt, have you played any of these games?
I haven't actually. I've played Log Jammers on Mega Cat Studios, but haven't played. And I enjoyed that. So I'm looking forward to Windjammers actually.
Windjammers is great. Karnoff is a really interesting platformer because it's one of those platformers that uses that Gradius style. You use different items through an item selection bar, which was so random for that back in the day. And nowadays it would be like, what an interesting dynamic. And back, how has it not been remembered? And Atomic Runner Chelnov, which is also called Atomic Runner, and the Mega Drive port that came of that. That's such a big game because of its constantly scrolling right challenge, which is one of the first games to do that, to make sure that you carried on going and that it was just continuous momentum. So there's so many great games. And Vapor Trail and Roger, they're both part of their same universe. They're both two different takes on the shooter genre, and they're really fun to play.
Yeah, I say I like Windjammers was great. Roger was actually a real great. I really enjoyed that shoot 'em up actually. Karnov I just found hard as nails. Just getting my ass handed to me on that. Like he said, using your items, trying to work out, just taking your time rather than I kept trying to rush through it. Once you get your items work out, I actually got a little bit of a ladder egg and move into this bit, like trying to work it out, trying to be more careful than. Yeah, I would say Gene Joke says they're kind of frustrating at one point, but Atomic Runner was great. Vapor Trail, it's a solid collection. Like Windjammers is not as easy as you think. It took me a couple of times, and I started to work out the mechanics and getting them rebounds off and swerving them shots and diving at the right time to save it just going in. And then I'd find myself trying to waste time as the clock's running down, like waiting to it's fantastic. So another solid collection.
Yeah, the most annoying thing about Windjammers is when you accidentally let the disc just drop on the floor and you're like, oh no!
Yeah, I've done that a few times. But for me, obviously, I've been an arcade cart. It works fantastic. It will be fantastic on the Alpha.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun on the alpha screen. I mean, those games pop quite well on nice, good screens with good colors, and the alpha's just great for that. So it works really well.
So yeah, so anything from anyone else on Windjammer, Carnov and Friends before we move on? No. Okay.
No, I'm happy to jump into the chat questions.
So yes, Tim's in charge of bringing up the questions because he's on chat tonight. It's on chat duty. We have had absolutely tons come through. So Tim's has tried to do his best to make sure we don't get any duplicates. But
I'll review these as we go. So
yeah, he will review these as we go. But before we go that, I will run. I will run Derek's VT as he's not here.
Do you have a question? Well, now's your chance. It's time to ask Derek.
To ask Sean.
I guess we should have done there, Blood. Is just cut it off Evercade. Sean.
You got to do it in like at least an octave lower. So ask Sean.
Sean. Just like one of them commentators from back in the day on the old football games. London Red.
Oh, and here he goes. He shoots. Yeah. It's a goal kick.
That was like Pro Evo back in the day.
Right, we've got our first one in from Mr. Nicholas Skipkin, so I'll pop that on the screen. We'll go through.
So now we have mouse support on Evercade. Is there any chance an official Evercade mouse mat?
See, this is where we go. We don't go for the official mouse. We want the mouse mat.
Well, I mean, it's something that could work quite well. Funstock always do a item that they pair with their cards, so that could be something that goes really well with them. Believe it or not, we still haven't made any ourselves for our own office yet, so maybe we'll combine the two and just go, hey, let's get a mouse mat out there as one of the things to do, and then we can all have one in the office as well.
I say about mouse mats. I ended up getting a nice one because I was just converted my garage. I'm starting to convert it into my office, and I got a massive one with our new logo, new name, and it's got Ryan on it. And then he left. So you
just have to get some Tipex.
I'll just show you here. Look, so I've got Ryan there.
Yeah, that's a legacy item now,
Yeah, but that maybe that's where the mouse goes all the time. If you don't want to see Ryan look at it.
Yeah, there you go. Put the mouse on his head.
Draw a headstone behind it.
Dear.
Rest in peace, Ryan.
So will we see mouse support to mimic paddles, controls for Pong, and Super Breakout on Atari Collection 1?
Possibly. We have experimented with using it as a trackball on different things. So mouse support is constantly going on. Testing is going on to introduce it to new things and stuff. So yeah, possibly. We should just see how it goes and how easy it is to implement. Really.
Yeah,
it'd be nice.
So, could we see what you can say that?
A Werner Flash beer.
Yeah, Evercade. This game's similar to Dash.
Yeah, I mean, never say never. Never say never, really. There's always options to do different things. The Amiga is a great system. There's so much more that's available and licensable, and obviously trying to find the right people that own said licenses. It's always tricky, but always a possibility. And if enough people want them, then we'll always try and get them. It does depend sometimes whether there's enough there from a certain publisher to make a collection. Although we'll try and see if there's another way we can get stuff if a game is good. When we first did stuff with the boys from Badger Punch, we put a few games on as a bonus. A game on as a bonus, and a second game on as a bonus. So it's there's always possibilities of something that can happen.
Yeah.
Oh, so
there's lots of questions about.
Any
there's
hints?
lots of people ask about this as well. Yeah, lots of people want to know about the more carts.
Well, I'll do some reverse engineering for you because I can't give you an exact date yet because the exact dates are subject to somebody else's approval. But these carts will come out in November, so they'll be the last things of the year. We normally give you 60 days worth of a pre-order, so that means they'll be up for pre-order around about the end of September. So sometime before that, a couple of weeks before that, maybe sometime in August, you'll hear some more about them as well.
So yeah, fingers crossed August.
Yeah.
I think.
And I'll repeat what I said the other day on Retro Asylum in case you guys didn't hear it. All of these are new collections of Evercade, so they're all collection.
Oh, nice.
So they're not. There's no collection 2s or collection 3s out of this last one.
Wow, let the speculation commence. I think in the chat now. What are we going to get? No, that's exciting news actually, because a lot of the time when we do these chats, we're always predicting like, oh, what do you guys think we're going to get next? And often we'll be like, oh, it'll be this 2 or this 3. So knowing that it's not going to be a 2 or a 3 opens up a bit. So,
all collection ones. And I will correct Gene Joke, who mentioned this on another podcast in a comment, which was a slight misquote of me, where I actually said these collections will make some people that have been on the fence about Evercade, so that they've maybe seen Evercade and haven't been sure, turn around and go, "Ooh, what's that? That's nice," because these collections are going to have that kind of power, I think, for a few people. So.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting the fact that, like they said, it's new collections, so that means there's new companies coming over as well, and that we've joined with that. It's now hopefully the brand's now getting out there a bit more. Do you know what I mean? That's like it's fantastic to have the Neo Geo stuff all get announced this year. Do you know what I mean? And then we're going to be getting, like you said, new collections. That's another, like Badger Punch was a new company as well. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of it's
absolutely lovely. I mean, technically, Windjammers was technically a new company because it's a new publisher, even though they're all Data East, of course. In fact, the only 3 carts where we've had a previous release of anything, I mean, if you don't count Indie Heroes, given it's our own line, Gremlin, Atari, and Tomb Raider. Everything else has been new.
Yeah.
I mean, Taito, technically, we have worked with them before on the Super Pocket and stuff, but they're new to carts, so yeah.
So well, Tim's in the middle of making his own game, aren't you, Tim? So that'll be we want to get that on Indie Heroes at some point. Indie Heroes 10.
How long it will take me a bit? Let's see, we might be able to get on Indie Heroes 8 or 10 or something somewhere down the line. So
yeah, he is actually making one. I saw it. This does look pretty good. So dear Sean, on the VS Alpha, will Tate and Analog be able to be toggled from the menu buttons in future?
Yeah, so at the moment it's toggled outside of the game, so it's not in the in-game to be able to toggle. Very probably, I know it's something that has been in our feedback loop for a while with our dev team, so hopefully there's something we can do with that. Not entirely sure why you would want to tartate on the alpha though, because you can't move the screen. So unless you're going to like turn the alpha on its side and play it in a different way, I don't know. But yeah, the VS obviously you can do it, and if you've got a monitor that turns around, you can play Tate mode on those games, and it looks great. It does look really good.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of already covered this. I don't know if we're going to be cheeky or trying to get any more squeezing more information out of you on these, but it says anything about the 3 carts that will come. Maybe you can tell us the color, blue, purple, red.
Yes.
You've already given us a big hint about the ones.
Yeah.
To answer that question, yes.
Yes. Excellent. I think that tells us all we need to know. Yes.
It's going to be a Game Gear, Sega Game Gear cart, maybe.
Oh, right.
I think that's the back door, isn't it? Is that the back door to the Sega? Nobody's got Game Gear games much. Except we have. You've got the Sword of Stone, haven't we?
Well, yes. Yeah, we do. And there's, I think the last Game Gear games that were actually released in any real capacity were from Sega themselves, I think. I think it's on the Sonic Origins collection. They did a load of the Sonic games as part of that. Yeah, so Game Gear comes up from time to time on different collections, and they are out there. They are licensable, but like when you deal with companies like Sega that are that big, you're not just licensing a game from that and it ends up being cheaper because it's on that. You're probably paying the same for that as you would do for a massive arcade game. You go, right, well, which one do I want to get?
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I'm a Game Gear guy. I absolutely love it, and I could make countless collections in my head with lots of these things. So yeah.
Well, the latest Retro Gamer, they had the 25 or something Game Gear games to play or whatever. It's good. Yeah, I was a Game Gear guy as well. Yeah, columns and
I need to fix mine. Mine's got that.
Yeah, my capacitors are gone.
Yeah. Obsolete Worlds. To answer your question there.
Yes.
So we've actually stopped patching carts. We stopped quite a long time ago, and most of the stuff now downloads via our firmware onto the system more than onto the carts. There's always things that we're looking at and how we can improve the service and reliability of everything that we use. So that's, something that we do continue to do. Obviously, there's only so much you can do with software. So, we try our best to see what we can do. But the other thing we don't want to do is have you sit there with long download times of, gigabytes of data all the time, because that's not what Evercade's about. So, but there's always a way that we can try and fix stuff. We'll try and do things. Our support team are very, very helpful. We do quite a lot of any kind of replacements or different things like that, as long as it meets certain criteria, and they're relatively quick to respond to everything as we can. Obviously, weekends and bank holidays depending. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say to anybody, if you've got any trouble with any particular thing, speak to our support team and see what we can do.
Yeah, I've always had good things. That I know Andy said that when he was having problems with a game, and then they actually got in touch and actually wanted to know the ins and outs, and pretty much, I think, used his cartridge and the issues he was having to help them fix things in the future on other things. So, so dear Sean, a few months ago, there seemed to be a hint about this on the official Evercade Facebook group with multiple Super Pockets. Would there be a chance for pocket magnifiers from Paul?
I mean, there might be a chance. I mean, it's one of the things that when we first did the pockets, it felt like a bit of a joke. But when we did the second pockets, it sort of became actually a relatively serious thought of, maybe we should look at something like this, because there seems to be a demand for it. And if there is, we'll try and make it happen. Obviously, we need to be able to produce them, find the right design, find something that isn't going to be too heavy on your hands. I mean, I don't know if anybody played a Game Boy with one of those. They were quite weighty.
Yeah.
I put that on the Facebook group the other day. And
yeah, that looks like a Game Boy Watch on there. It's not. It's an actual wrist support. It's keeping its wrist locked in place.
Could you imagine?
Go on.
You're saying, could you imagine like a Super Pocket with all of that on there? It'd be hilarious.
Like all stacked on top. Thing as well, I do really vividly remember using the magnifying glass quite a lot on like long car journeys when I was a kid, because it had like a light downlight on it as well.
Yeah,
and
those
without
games weren't backlit, were they?
No, you couldn't quite play the game properly. Or like every time you went by a street light, you get a glimpse of the game for a few seconds and trying to play something.
I get that now. That screen, like there's a window like there, and if I'm just looking at the right angle, the entire bottom of the screen is just not visible at all.
Yeah,
I get it now, even on proper TV. So
I had to get blackout blinds on mine because it was doing mine in the lounge.
But yeah, Paul, hopefully so. We'll see what we can do.
I think this is sort of a similar question, but it's just more general about any new accessories.
None initially planned in the short term. We're always looking at what we can do. Every type of controller imaginable has been suggested to us, and we always look into it. And the main thing, to be brutally honest, is we need to make sure there's a business case for it. Because we have to produce a minimum amount. We have to sell them into distribution, not just Funstock, but everybody else. So we need to make sure there's a demand for it if we're going to make them. So possibly, it's one of the things we are certainly looking at. Analog controls, we know there's a lot of good third-party support, so it's probably not a priority with what we're doing right now, but you never know in future. It would require a sort of slight redesign of the Evercade controller if you're using it on a VS to do that, of course. And I mean, it would require an entirely new handheld if you were going to do it on that. So, yeah. But yeah, it's always something we look at and see what we can do.
I think this is a really important question. Lots of people want to know. We've had Evercade t-shirts, hats, and socks. Where are the Ever pants?
Well, the thing is with the Ever pants is because they are pants and because they are a product that is absolutely mired in British law and EU regulation law and everything else, we've actually had to spend the last 2 years manually testing the pants before we can even put them into a beta phase of production. So everybody in the Evercade office has been wearing the same pair of Ever pants for the last 2 years. But it's EU law, I can't help it.
Vigorous quality control testing going on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe someday.
Never say
You got to
never.
stop,
Sizing.
don't you?
I mean,
You
it's
got to
sizing,
stop.
isn't it? What
Yeah.
sizes do you choose to stop?
And then you
with
said it's
t-shirts?
minimum
You could be
orders
okay.
again. Then it's all minimum orders again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody
Okay.
wants to make their own, more than welcome to contact us and see about using our logo. Just not sure where you're going to put all the particular
We'll
logos
talk.
and
We'll
stuff on them.
talk. Don't worry. We'll have a conversation about that. I think Blunder's has got some ideas. So,
Yeah. You see, the thing is, Gene, I know that's a very British way of saying about it because there's going to be Americans there going, I don't want Evercade trousers.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it's
Underwear, should we say?
for anyone that's really confused, this is a bit of a running joke on the podcast that we want Evercade pants, which are underwear in the UK. Okay.
Still sure, and we ever see Rumble support?
Again, that would have to be something that's in a future product. If it ever happened, obviously, a controller with our stuff would need to include it. There's potential for us to include it in the firmware into other stuff, of course, if they're third-party support. It's just making sure that the firmware and everything handles it. At the moment, short term, probably not. Medium to long term, possibly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it also depends kind of what you want with Rumble support, right? Because, I think the one thing you probably don't want is something vibrating in your hands when you miss the upteenth platform for the 20th time, because it depends. If it's just going to rumble every time you die, you're just like, no.
Yeah, because I think it's only mainly you'd be using it on like gigacarts, wouldn't you, really? Because like your PlayStation-y games that have come with it.
Yeah, I mean, and
I think
even
what
not
else
all of them would
games
have either.
Exactly. And that's late PlayStation games.
Unless we get into PS2, yeah. But the Pokemon
game-
Pinball
packs.
had a little rumble pack in the cartridge.
That's quite a bit. That is
These
now,
quite so nice.
Yeah, maybe that's a peripheral then for the Super Pocket. Maybe we do like a rumble
plug
pack,
it,
like
yeah.
adapter for the Super Pocket. or
Rumble
something.
cart.
Yeah, that could work. Lots of high action going on those pockets. So, so yeah, obviously, any chance that Blaze can increase the warranty for their products beyond the year. So it really depends on the local law. I mean, if you're in the EU, it's 2 years anyway. It's just British retail law suggests it's only 1 year. And to be perfectly honest, when it comes to warranties, we used to be a lot freer with warranties, obviously, because we've got bigger and we have more people that have Evercade products. We've had to be a little bit stricter on being more enforcing on warranties. But I mean, for example, in EU law, you have to have 2 years. And there are certain retailers where they will have a manufacturer 2 years through your retailer as well. So, I wouldn't say we currently do the minimum. But also as well, a lot of this stuff is it's not like your £400 to £500 Xbox and PS5s. We can normally, as long as we've got stock, replace stuff pretty easily at a lower cost. So it's not really beneficial to offer a longer time yet. It's something I can bring up with people and see whether that's something that would go down well. It is one of those annoying things that being in Britain, that's what the law is on that of how much you get. But hopefully so. We might be able to do something else with that.
Yeah. So you say about like you might not get a chance to play all your games straight away, but I think if you get a new product, it's always good to test it and see if it's working.
Yeah, of course.
Back on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody who's joining the ecosystem, and there might be a few people, but nobody's really going out there and getting every cart they can immediately. A lot of the issues we've had have actually come by from people that haven't played them for a while, that were very, very early adopters, where things have been around a little bit and they've come back and forth or things being wherever. So, I mean, we'd always recommend that you play all of your carts regularly. Screw free time. Just go play carts. Don't worry about working. Don't worry about those things.
Is there any
I'm joking,
chance
of course, by the way. I am joking.
Is there any chance of us getting a serious JRPG license, such as Square Enix, Konami, Working Designs?
Never say never. One of the main issues with JRPG licensing isn't the licensing of the game necessarily. It's the licensing of absolutely everything else that comes with the game. So Final Fantasy has had it quite locked tight for quite a few years, but for the most part, a lot of those games had composers that own the music rights that you have to license to alone. The writers that own the rights to the story, and the designer that owns the rights to certain backgrounds, and all of these things are very piecemeal, and it becomes a nightmare for those companies to even put them together for them to release them, let alone to license them out to other people. So, I mean, there is potential of all of these things. It's a never say never thing. We might be able to snag a deal with something that's already out there that's been re-released in certain ways in their original forms, as long as everybody's happy to do so. So there is a chance. There's always a chance.
That does explain a bit why we don't have as many of those sorts of games on there, because I really like Brave Battle Saga on the Pico collection. That's a really good one. I would like to see more stuff like that. But yeah, that does make a lot of sense why you've got the different licenses. So maybe there's some indie developers out there that can work on some really cool RPGs, and then we can get those.
I think everybody would. I think everybody knows that RPG is a relatively underserved genre on Evercade purely because of availability and licenses. There are loads of games that are even Western RPGs that, I'd love to bring if we could get the licensing right to do them. Things like the Might and Magic series, all of those kind of things. They've been around ages, and again, there's a lot of things that I personally quite like. A lot of the strategy games at the time, and it's trying to find the right licensing in order to get those. There's other companies out there like Koei Tecmo and stuff like that they've got a good history and all of these things. So there's definitely always possibility of something coming somewhere. It's just making sure that the time is right for everybody involved.
Yeah, you don't think about it really. Everything that goes into it.
I try not to think about it as much.
Mate, that must be an absolute ball ache. Oh my head. Are we getting Evercade VR and a light gun?
Maybe. No, we're not. We're not getting VR set.
What the hell?
No, VR would be a bit of an odd move. That would be a bit of a shift. But I would love to see. I really want to get hold of some light gun stuff. So if ever it could happen,
there's a Kickstarter, isn't there, for that? There's a Kickstarter
there is
for that.
Yeah, the game with Time Crisis, Point Break, and the two steel gunner things. It's a lot of the stuff that you get now. I mean, Sinden also does the same thing, and there's another couple of different things that you can get, which are kind of aftermarket kind of stuff, where it's light sensors. So you basically have you stick 4 light sensors that outline the corner of the TV or the light bar, quite like the Wii. Actually, it's quite similar to the Wii in the way that works, and then you use the light gun on those, but a lot of them are all either expensive. They sound like they're not expensive, and then when you start adding the bits that you need to play everything that you want to play, they end up getting quite expensive.
Definitely.
So it's one of those things as well. If the games become available to us tomorrow and doing that, we'd probably look into it a bit more. Obviously, we've worked with Bandai Namco in the past, and they've got a great range of shooting games, as you know, and they do license things. It's just finding, again, the right time for that to be licensed and available, really. But, if those kind of things could come, who knows?
We've got Operation Wolf. That's already licensed.
Operation Wolf is a big one, obviously, from Taito. And there's a few other secret games that are on the Evercade that use light guns. So, things like Bang, which is one of the Galco games. Who knows? Maybe we can get something like Lethal Enforcers in future, or Mad Dog McCree. Everybody will love a bit of Mad Dog.
We had that on a stream once. We watched some of the cutscenes from Mad Dog McCree.
Maybe it's going to be cheaper to make a Blaze CRT instead. That's what
yes, embedded.
Maybe.
That's the thing. It's one of those things where the cost does go up, doesn't it? It's like I say, I've got looked at stuff before. It's like you can get the gun. I think, well, I'll probably want 2 guns because I might be playing 2-player. It's like, do you want your guns to have recoil? Yeah, that sounds good. I was like, and do you need a pedal for that? It's like, yeah. And you look at the basket, like, yeah, I'm not paying all of that.
You haven't even got to the mini PC that they need to run the thing off.
Run the thing.
Exactly. But well, hopefully one day we can see something like that. I think there's definitely a lot of fan base for light gun games.
It's a massive fan base.
Toxo says the mouse support for light guns is a good start, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's a really good start. I mean, it's not a definitive, of course, because that I mean, the main thing with light guns and anything like that is it's going to be difficult to play on a handheld, and most of our players in some way, shape or form are majority handheld. But, you know, those are the sacrifices you make, I guess, if you do a handheld device, is that, you know, you have games that aren't necessarily always playable on that device. But we got lucky that we got the different options available to us. So who knows what might happen.
Yeah. So from Gene Jake, dear Sean, when Slaughter Sport, aka Tongue of the Fat Man, coming to Evercade?
I don't know if it will.
I can't say I've heard of that, so I don't know what he's on about.
It's kind of like a fighting game sort of crossed with it's sort of got elements of what looks like it's kind of like a point and click adventure, but it's not. It's mostly all fighting games. It's a very eclectic thing from I think Activision. I might be wrong there, Gene. You might have to correct me, but it's a very eclectic thing. Think of the kind of Trio the Punch kind of level madness.
Yeah, let me quickly share this. Is this it?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Tongue of the Fat Man. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole after this and go and look into this. I've never heard of that before. Tongue of the Fat Man.
Tongue of the Fat
I mean, it depends. It depends who owns it, really, as well, and stuff like that. So, you know, if there's people that own it, because I think it was developed by Activision, not published by Activision. So, you know, maybe it's something that comes with that as well. Who knows?
It's here published by Sanritsu. Developed by Activision, yeah. So yeah, you're right. Activision's on the box.
I got another from Gene Jake. So do you think the recent stuff going with Commodore could be an opportunity for some kind of deal for Evercade?
I mean, it depends what for. I mean, we've already got quite a lot of C64 games. For context, for people that don't know, Commodore as a company, the licenses to the name, the logos, all of those kind of things was owned by one company. It's currently in the process of being transitioned and purchased by a YouTuber by the name of Retro Recipes, who's basically taking it all over. He's a massive fan of Commodore, you know, and he's managed to bring a lot of the original people that worked for Commodore on board as part of the board and in the way they've taken it over. But I mean, maybe not. It depends what really people expect to do, because, you know, you've got a lot of licensing for the hardware, but not for the software from that. You know, we work with a lot of people with Amiga and the C64 collections that we got, that we've been able to sub-license a lot of those Epix titles and different things that we've been able to have the Hudson titles, not Hudson Soft, it's a different company. Hewson, that's the name I'm thinking of. Sorry, too many H's. And a lot of those titles and such. So, you know, we're working with people that own the games to try and get some stuff. And to be perfectly honest, at this stage, the only thing that really uses the word Commodore would need to be licensed by Commodore. Otherwise, we kind of use different vernaculars that are more sort of generally accepted around there anyway. It depends what's on the table, really. It looks like they've got their own plans, to be perfectly honest. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that over the next couple of years for sure.
So next is, now we have mouse support on Evercade. Could we see a second prize Amiga on Evercade? The bike is controlled by a mouse.
I mean, again, it's one of those things that, you know, if we've got other games that are done by that publisher, maybe. It's one of those things that there might be quite a lot of different things that are available through different people, but, you know, a lot of these companies were started up in bedrooms and finished in bedrooms, and there's no paper trail for a lot of them, and people didn't buy them or anything else. So, you know, it would be interesting, because, I mean, there's a lot of games like that game on the Amiga of that kind of era, you know, Jeff Crammon's F1, Hard Driving, and a lot of those kind of games where you had that early 3D kind of racing stuff. So, I mean, there's always potential, but, you know, it depends who owns it and whether there's other people there.
Cool. So, any special edition carts coming, like we saw with Full Void?
At the short-term present, I don't think there is. We will obviously, of course, keep everybody updated if there is. At the moment, we're kind of we have focused on sort of delivering more carts this year as opposed to doing a split of a cart and then a cart special edition. So hopefully, you know, in future we will do more special edition carts. But right now, we just want to really focus on the dev and production time on bringing you more games. So.
Yeah, it's but it is something that definitely Full Void it benefited massively from.
It was really nice. It was a great
fantastic.
special edition, yeah.
Yeah,
Lovely.
because like the packaging, like everything, how the Blaze made their stuff, anyways. How it is
And
just
the blue
fantastic.
cart. I
Yeah.
love the blue cart.
So, there's Sean. Are we any closer to reprinting any of the legacy carts? Namco.
Well, firstly, Colin, thank you very much for spelling my name in the correct way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, wow.
I anglicize it because I'm born English, but I am of Irish heritage. So yeah, thank you very much. Are we any closer to reprinting any of the legacy carts? Yes, but probably not Namco at this stage. But there will potentially be some ways that we can bring back some legacy carts in the future.
Platinum.
I'll leave it at that for the moment because I don't want to promise too much. Not that I'm teasing, I just don't want to promise too much.
Yeah.
I think we might have already kind of covered this, but it's more about a question about getting more blue, red, or purple carts in the future. I was just expecting to see yes, yes to all.
Yeah.
I mean this year we've been arcade heavy, you know, so that we've had quite a lot of purple carts this year, and there's going to be a few more going into next year for sure. There will be more of all. Really, I mean, it's going to be good.
Good to know. What we've got here.
Sure. If we brought the Title 2 carts in a VS, secret game can be Championship Wrestler or Football Champ.
I honestly don't know, because we have to license those games to be on a bonus. So effectively, when we do license them, it is kind of, you know, throwing money at something that only, you know, Alpha and VS people can play. Maybe. I haven't checked to see whether we've got a bonus in line for those carts, but Football Champ, I think Football Champ's available on the Pocket, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
yes.
Yeah. And I think Championship Wrestler might have something why we can't publish it, something legally based about it. I don't know, like a license that's within it or something like that. But I honestly don't know. I'll have to find out and let you know whether there is a secret game or not. I won't tell you what one it is, obviously. I'm not going to give away the whole thing.
No, we definitely, I can see from his New Japan wrestling title. I think he's got on there. We do need a wrestling game of some sort, please.
It's difficult, isn't it, with licenses for wrestling stuff.
I know, because you got like names.
Well, I mean, I know I saw the question earlier on in the chat, and there is a friend of mine that works for a PR company, and every time I see him, he says, "When are you getting WrestleFest?"
Yeah.
Every time, every single time, and it's like, don't you think I want WrestleFest?
Yeah, that would be.
Don't you think I found?
I'm going to jump ahead down the list and just go to this one. Will we?
There it is.
WrestleFest was in there.
Don't you think I found every single person that works for licensing for WWE to see whether I could get an intro to get the call? I mean, it does look like we are maybe getting WrestleFest now, that somebody else has managed to do some stuff and pry it out of the hands with I can't remember.
I'm trying to think who owns it.
Arcade Classics, I think it's Basic Fun. So WWE still own it.
Oh, okay.
It was developed by Technos, so I think there is like a nod
Technos.
that has to be done to Arc System Works, who own Technos. The biggest problem with most of those games, of any of those games, is once you get to the PlayStation era, who owns what, because the companies that publish them are now long gone.
Yeah.
Although WWE are very good on owning their own licensing. The second thing is obviously having to change every ROM of what there is, so arcade or console. In fact, I think they did actually do an edit of Steel Cage Challenge where they completely edited out Hulk Hogan and replaced him with the Ultimate Warrior, and obviously changed the logos, of course, because it's now all of those logos are legacy logos you can't use. So But yeah, I think other than the legend logo, the F getting the F out, I think WrestleFest is probably actually quite clear when it comes to wrestlers and people involved and stuff like that. So if it is going to come, as has been reported, who knows?
That can have the one cut special edition, limited edition box on that one. Can
I have to deal with the various ways you've got to play Final Fight on by Capcom and just have all the Android the Giant lookalikes.
Yeah, you can edit them in yourself, basically. So our question now, that sort of stone has broke the duck. When is the Game Gear collection coming?
Well, hopefully we'll do some more Game Gear stuff soon. You know, we've always had it on our radar to do more. It's just trying to find the licenses and stuff that's available. Obviously, Sword of Stone being an indie game has made that a lot easier for us to get those kind of things, and it's nice to have a bit of representation of the good old Game Gear with us. Yeah, I mean, it just really depends what's available, who owns what again, and what is available to license. You know, hasn't been a lot of Game Gear games at all, really. I think there was a good amount on the Wii Virtual Console, but I think they were all mostly first-party Sega titles. So I don't think there was really many that were second-party. But, you know, you never know. Sometimes, you know, when you find a license and, you know, the studio who licensed it still owns the license as opposed to the developer, and you can go down that route, then maybe, you know. One of my favourite Game Gear games was the Game Gear version of the Power Rangers game.
Yeah,
and that was a great little
fantastic.
It was awesome.
Remember that?
You know, and if the licensors that own that still own the game as opposed to the developers of the game, which I think was, I can't even remember.
It was actually.
I'll have to try and work that one out.
If I quickly Google it.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, I'd love to bring more Game Gear. It was one of my consoles growing up. Just need to make sure that everybody's in the right place to do it then. Ooh, interesting. What arcade sticks would you recommend for the VS? I would recommend the Nintendo Switch 8-bit Do arcade stick controller, the wireless one. That's the one. Yeah. That's the bad boy. It comes up in sales quite a lot, so it can go down as little as £50 on Amazon. It's got good response. It connects super easy. It's really easily mappable as well. I think it's probably one of the best ones there. I mean, there's quite a few wired ones which also work as well. I think somebody mentioned one of the Switch ones. I think might work wired as well with that. But you know, the 8-bit Do ones are a really good quality one as well, and especially if you've got another console where you would use it. So, for example, if you've got a Switch or Switch 2,
works on Xbox as well.
Or the Xbox One or anything like that. You know, if you're playing games that are using it, then it's a no-brainer purchase, I guess.
What I did is I put a Sanwa joystick in it, got one off eBay for about 20 quid, and then just upgraded it, like you said, picked up for about £60 in the sale. Looks fantastic.
And it's one of the reasons why we haven't probably done one, is because if we wanted to do one, we'd want to do one right, like we have done in the alpha, and in both chances of the alpha. So it's you'd end up paying more for the stick than you would do for the console, and for us, that's kind of not right for Evercade in the way it looks. But if you can get something where you got a bigger company like 8-bit Do that can do those kind of things, and you can get it off Amazon on a flash deal, absolutely go for it.
Could you do a special edition with them, a partnership or something with 8-bit
Possibly.
Do?
Possibly. We've spoken to them. Maybe we've spoken to them before. I think one of the main things we're sort of looking for is to see whether we could actually get an official badge or something like that. He says, works on Evercade or Evercade supported or something like that. So yeah, we're always in contact with people trying to see what we can do to, give the right kudos to the right thing at the right time.
This one's actually for Matt, so you have to.
I think it's to do with the high score challenge we do on the Hangout. My brother and I work out. I don't. Any ideas? Put ideas in the comments for the next high score challenge. We did Old Towers was the last one because it was highlight of the month. So nobody had to buy anything extra if they didn't have the Mega Cat Studios.
Well, that's quite a good theme to go with. Actually, you can do a challenge on the game of the month if the current game is appropriate for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any games where you can get negative scores. Trying to think where you can. Maybe that would be a good one, like trying to get the highest negative score
Get the
possible.
worst.
Yeah.
No, the worst score, that would be me. I would win that one every time.
So, as a US resident, the vast majority of my carts have come from third-party sellers. Is the US distribution progressing?
Well, it's been a year, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So we signed a new distribution deal. The tariff situation then changed, and it meant that obviously all of our distributors were unsure what we could do, how we could do it, or anything else. So thankfully, our distributor, we had separate distribution in Canada and in the US, and this new deal does Canada and the US, and it's a much larger distributor, which means that we can hopefully get into much more sellers that are not third party but actually first party. People like GameStop, which started to, listing us before the tariff situation happened, more of the larger marketplaces as well, and still trying to support some of the smaller indie shops as well, where people will buy stuff in and get stuff as well. So it's progressing. It's progressing relatively fast because stock is, if not in the US, it is arriving right now in the US for all of the new stuff, and then obviously, of course, back catalog stuff is coming over as well. It's mainly just making sure how quickly our distributor and everybody else could get there and get all the stuff out. It's not been easy, and we do apologize. We've done as much as we can. Fun stock now shipped to the US. Now we've got the trade deals finalized, so the percentages and everything else that we do is relatively open and out there, so people can expect what they need to pay. And we just hope that more people start coming on board and selling Evercade. Hopefully it's going to be a lot easier for you. It's been a bit painful, and it probably might be a little bit painful still as the lag happens of all of these listings and stock going out over the next couple of months. But hopefully it's going to be in a much better place for you in the medium and longer term.
All right, I'm conscious of overrunning a little bit. We've got a couple more questions we can just rattle through to finish up. So we've got this one about when we'll be able to update Superbox via Apple iMac.
Yeah, so Apple and iMacs are not necessarily the issue when it comes to this thing. It's actually the chips where the updaters and stuff don't like to play ball with different things. So when we get spare time to work on it, we try and work on it. But the amount of people that have Macs that use Super Pockets and update Super Pockets is quite low to invest the amount of money that's needed to make sure that everything works. So somebody has normally got some kind of access to a PC or something else. We appreciate that some people don't, and there are rarer instances of that. So we will try and bring it back up as soon as we can. Obviously, as a small company, we've got to pick and choose where we do our dev work, really, I guess. And at the moment, the infrastructure of how those chips work with our updater and with the chips in our devices isn't playing ball. So that's not just on our side, that's work that has to happen between Apple and our chip manufacturer as well, because there's going to be several devices that has the same kind of chips that we do. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Our plane's doing something to resolve stock shortages, and why do stock orders run out, pre-orders run out of stock?
So, I mean, as I said, with the distribution deals, there's 2 distribution deals that have been signed. One's in the US and Canada, and the other one's in the UK and Europe. That's exclusive to another distributor who's a big, massive distributor in the space. So there's lots of stock out there, certainly across various different places, and certainly a Batcat is just trying to find and get that there. The main thing with stock shortage is just getting it produced and getting it places. And of course, getting it into North America and Canada at the moment has been a nightmare because of working out when to send it, how long you've got to produce it and then send it before it can be accepted in. And if you think that, we're having trouble, imagine what people that are bigger than us are having trouble, because we're all having this rush to get stuff in within this 90-day period in case anything happens. It's very unpredictable. Across Europe, again, because we changed distributors to a distributor, There has been a bit of lag of listings being available in different places, although our previous distributors in a lot of areas actually did get a load of stock and bought a load of stock before the change. So there is still quite a lot of availability in Europe. The reason pre-orders run out of stock is because mainly there is a set amount that a retailer has, and the retailer normally with us guesstimates how much they're going to need. And sometimes that demand has not been accurate to what has actually been ordered. Normally, in a perfect world, you would pre-order it on everything, and then you'd put in the order for how much you could do. You'd buy it and then put it across. But that could take 6 to 8 months. And, you know, our model has always been, you know, and it may well change in future, who knows, but our model has always been, you know, we don't want people to have pre-orders hanging around too long. We don't want to take too much of your money for too long when you're doing these things, because we want to make sure that you're not having to overspend. We know that hardware's a bit of a different thing on that, but, you know, cartridges, for example, is mostly every 2 months. And that's about it. So we don't want to make it that you pre-order something in January, they then order it in March. It then takes another 3 to 4 months to be produced and then ship across the sea, and you get it in November. That doesn't really work. So, yeah, so there's always retailers they will let us know how much stock they think they need, and we will tell them you're going to need more, or that sounds about right, you know. Obviously, of course, with one of the major retailers in the world, there's nobody to talk to. So it's very difficult to go to them and go, oh, by the way, all of these pre-orders that you're cancelling, we've got the stock for you. It's here. It's ready. We can send it. And they're like, no, we'll just cancel everything. It's fine. But, you know, things change, things happen. And, you know, hopefully with these new distributors who are much more entwined and, you know, gets us out of doing it all ourselves and having to do the hard graft in it, we should get a lot more reliability in stock and in availability in future.
Yeah, it's like what we say. Like, you guys came out in the middle of of the pandemic, for God's sake. So, do you know what I mean?
It's a weird one. I mean, if you've listened to a few of the podcasts with Andrew lately, you know, it's an absolute nightmare how that was as well. And I mean, I know I was working for a different company at the time doing PC hardware and trying to get any kind of like graphics card or PC hardware is a nightmare anyway, let alone during that period.
Yeah,
and I
let
think
alone launch something. So.
Well, one of the things that we did is we sponsored in the old company, we sponsored a esports formula of motor racing. So we actually sponsored a major FIA motor racing thing, Formula E. Yeah. And part of the thing that we organized as soon as the pandemic hit, within about a month and a half, was sending completely pre-built PC and racing rigs individually to every single driver on that grid.
Oh, wow.
Through their partners that they had with DHL, so we could do the logistics, but then trying to build 26 identical PCs with a sim rig, with the seat and the monitor and the flight case for it to go in to then be delivered to somewhere, and doing that within the space of like 45 to 60 days. Wow. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine with the amount of issues we have.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. This is nothing.
Context. Yeah.
Will we see any more Kai Magazine games? Life on Earth, Secrets of the Four Winds would make a nice card. I hope so. I ditto this because
Yeah,
fantastic.
there's another game
one of my favourite cards last year.
Led.
Yeah. I very much hope so. They're great games. They're really fun and enjoyable. You know, a lot of the new Mega Drive scene is really, really good, and Kai Magazine are a really big part of that. So yeah, I'd love to see more from them on
there. Right, I have tried my best to get in as many questions as I could. I have missed a few.
Go for it. I'll quick fire some.
Yeah, I'm just going to say we've got one last one here actually. I think a lot of the questions we've got were we have kind of talked about like future carts, people with their ask about hardware and different things they want to see. So the last one we got is Midway. Any
well,
Mortal Kombat.
Who knows? Never say never. Never say never. I mean, the owners of those licenses do license those out occasionally. Not as often as they used to, but they do license them out. So, never say never. Hopefully, if the time is right, we'll be able to bring them because, I mean, there's a lot of my personal favorites in that catalog as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've got one question that's just came in the chat, which I might put up because this bit of a challenge for you guys. You've seen this in the past. There are numerous instances of cards being leaked just before Blaze announced them. Is it possible to stop retailers from doing this? Because I know there's been a few times where like Amazon have put a product on there and it's got like the name in the cover and the showcase is like just around the corner.
Yep.
What's that been like from your? Obviously, we see that from our side. But what's it like on your side when that sort of thing's happened?
I have a dartboard with every single retailer on it. No.
It's got to be frustrating that he's saying that. Yeah,
it is frustrating, but it happens. You have to be able to give retailers enough of an advance and a heads up to get the products listed so that you can get them. And sometimes these things happen. Sometimes they happen on our own watch. Sometimes they happen outside of different things. It's always a tricky one, and you want to make sure that you don't get those leaks. But I think for the most part, everybody is really good about them when they do happen. Obviously, I know a lot of people do put them out in the Facebook groups and share them, and that's fine because they're out there. There's not much I can do about that. But certainly, things like the Discord, things like the podcast, things like even the press. To be perfectly honest, they don't like to cover leaks because they don't like to see something that's generating interest and generating hype that ends up being spoiled early. And I think everybody who's in the community does a really, really good job of, if they know there's a leak, they'll either try and avoid it. If somebody's wanting to talk about the leak, they'll say, hey, we don't particularly like to know about this. Please, put a spoiler warning or put anything on it if you are going to, things like that. I think, a lot of the community themselves are really good at self-moderating themselves to stay within the hype area. Obviously, there's going to be times where it's a bit spoiled, but it is what it is, and things happen. You can't really help them. That doesn't just happen to us. That happens to a lot of people for a lot of times. I mean, how many games have come out over the last 6 months where we all knew about them because of everything else that's been mentioned on somebody's job description on a LinkedIn or something like that? It's just one of the parts of the game.
Yeah, I've got one last question for everyone. If you could bring one game over without it would just easily just come over without any licensing issues, what would you bring and why? I'll start. Like I always say, Pro Evolution Soccer 1 from PlayStation 1. Konami.
So you would do that and not go further back and go ISS?
No, only because the Master League on that, me and my brother would spend hours and days. Well, he did. He sieved through and found an absolute bargain of a player. It was rapid.
I can see Matt's looking around his collection looking for inspiration to this question.
I love it because I normally say the No Mercy or the wrestling games from N64, but
I got that in there. I should have put it on in the background.
Yeah,
should have done that.
So what would you go for, Tim? I'll give him.
You kind of stole my thunder there a bit mentioning No Mercy. I was going to say, getting wrestling on there is something that we'd like to see, but it's a bit of a licensing minefield. So, any wrestling title, I think. I mean, WrestleFest has come up a lot this evening, so maybe WrestleFest would be the one for me.
Ooh. Matt, what about you?
There's how obscure. There was a game I loved called Crystal Warriors on the Game Gear. I know we talked about Game Gear a lot. But
Shaq-Fu's probably licensable. Don't mention it.
Something like Sunset Riders or something like that.
That's a great game.
That's a cracker. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
Or Streets of Rage 2. I know we've got Final Fight, but it's not quite Streets of Rage 2. So,
I could mention any kind of Sega first party game because I'm looking at them all right now. They're all there, and I'm like, yes, of course I want Outrun. Yes, of course I want the Streets of Rage collection. Yes, I want a Golden Axe collection. Yes, I want a Fantasy Star collection. Yes, I want a Fantasy Zone collection. That'd be great. I think I always go between 2 or 3 things, and they're normally either some kind of Outrun games or some kind of Bullfrog games like Theme Park and Theme Hospital. But today, I will mention something entirely different because I'm looking at it and it's staring at me in the face. Lemmings.
Hmm.
Leave it at that.
Yes. Yeah.
That was already one of my games I wanted to bring to Evercade.
Yeah.
Now on
Especially with like
Oh,
mouse support now as
mouse
well. That
support.
would.
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely with the Amiga version. I mean, I'm looking at the Mega Drive version right here, actually. Looking at it like that. So,
Box complete.
yeah. Box. Is it box complete?
Is it box complete?
Yes.
Oh, see, X didn't give him the manual.
Manual as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna say that this time. Everybody's had my other answers before.
Nice
I'm
one.
sure everybody in the chat's got a load there. I've seen Wing Commander, Simpsons Arcade, Panzer Dragoon. Ooh, hello.
Ooh, I know Simpson
Ooh.
Arcade's Ollie's
Yeah, I
go
was going
to.
to say that's Ollie's
That's-
pick in it, Simpsons Arcade.
Yeah.
He'd get a Simpsons Arcade Alpha, I think, if he had the opportunity for that.
That'd be a very wide alpha with the amount of
That
controllers.
would be
Yeah.
Only
Although
one player.
someone
The alpha would be
mentioned,
that big and the controller.
That'd be,
would be-
or perhaps
Yeah,
a
you
Shaq Fu Alpha with Shaq
Shaq.
inside with his basketball. Yeah, just down there. Can imagine the artwork on that now.
So that is episode 61 in the books. So thank you, Sean, for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'll make sure Derek's back next week.
Yeah. And
Honestly, I know we're starting rumors here, but I am not Derek, and Derek is not me.
So you're never in the same place at the same time. You can't prove otherwise.
No, that's
Yeah.
true. That is true.
So if you are new here, this is the Total Evercade podcast. This is episode 61. Make sure you leave us some comments, like the video, and share us. We are here every 2 weeks. So the next one is in 2 weeks from today. I like to get guests on. Also, if you're listening to us, this also goes out in audio format as well. So keep an eye on our page to see if you can get that. So Matt, where can we find you?
I'm in the Hangout mostly. I do have a little YouTube channel as well. I've done a couple of bits there, but yeah, if I'm in the Facebook Evercade Hangout group, trying to do some high score challenges.
Yeah, Tim, where can we find you?
Mostly post in the Total Video Gamers Facebook group, and then posting on here on our YouTube channel. And we are back again tomorrow as well. So we're back tomorrow for the Total Steam Deck podcast. That's our episode 2. So
yeah, we've just started that.
So we're on episode 61 of this. We're on episode 2 of the Total Steam Deck podcast. So yeah, come check out as well if you can.
And Sean, where can we find you?
Well, obviously you'll find Evercade everywhere at Evercade Retro. If you really want to find me personally, I'm on at Cleaver Slips everywhere. And I'll be honest, my social media use is either talking about food, talking about my cat, or being grumpy that I'm neither talking about food or my cat. So if you can stomach that, occasionally you might get a retro game thing on there.
Amazing. And I'm Ollie, mainly Blunners everywhere, literally everywhere. So keep an eye out for that. So thank you to all our guests. Thank you to everyone for joining us. And we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah.